Hello, everybody. This is Rebecca here with the 11th of January 2016 Deep Earth Singing Moon weekly reading. So I have the cards from the Shadowscapes Tarot, and I'm just going to hold them up for you again so that you can see them in such a way that I don't yet see them myself. So here's card number 1 and card number 2 and card number 3. So go ahead if you haven't already picked one and pick one. And we shall begin. I don't know what they are yet either. We also do have a 4th card for everyone, so stay tuned for that one. Four of Cups. There's a real feeling of isolation here and a sense of real introspection. But with the overtones of guarding the boundaries of the self, perhaps in ways that are unhelpful in terms of relationships with others. Very often, when we experience hurt in relationships, we will, step back from them. It's a normal, natural thing because of that pain, and spend time in self-reflection, but maybe not always in the positive way, not in reflecting on the various aspects of the problem, but in reflecting in ways that feed our own ego, that feed our own stories of the past, and that actually feed that pain rather than dissolving it. So if this is your card this week and you find yourself in that situation of withdrawing from the world and feeling old stories coming up and rising up, allow yourself to be present with that and acknowledge maybe that these stories, these repetitions of the past, are things that are no longer serving us, and that we do have the capacity to release them, that we are coming into a really powerful time of release. And so it is, totally normal, totally human that that we may be facing some of these old stories from the really ancient past, whether that is our own childhood stories or even past life healing, past life experiences, ancestral healings, because sometimes some of those patterns that come up are not even necessarily simply ours, but they are something that come from, our family history. So this week, if you got card number 1, you are being invited to consider these patterns in a new way, to see yourself from an outside perspective. It is a time of withdrawal and possibly of rest, like if you've been intensely involved in interacting with people in different relationships around these patterns, it will be a time of stepping back from these things. But also the warning, the caution, the advice here, don't allow yourself to get drawn down in a unhelpful way, into those patterns and stories of the past, but be aware that that is a possibility. And if you find yourself feeding those stories and feeding that pain, take a step back, from that. Allow yourself to see more clearly into that vision, both of yourself and others, to see that wider perspective, because it's that wider perspective that will bring change. And do take heart with it, because we are in a time when change will come, it can come. So just engage with that process and be wary, be wary of those patterns and that problem. So once more, that is the Four of Cups for those who've picked card number 1. Those who've picked card number 2, we have the 9 of Pentacles. And the words that are coming to me around this are mastery and completion. And my eyes are drawn to the pentacle, to the star, that's at the, in the top center there, the beauty of that, and how her playing of that music is a process of manifestation, of bringing into being on a physical level the things that she most desires. And that is your invitation this week. You have been on a long journey of change. You have been through a long process of transformation. And now it's time to put what you've learned to work. To be ready for the change that it is possible for you to bring through, and to open your heart to the possibilities of that change. To be ready and know that you yourself, when you are in that space of mastery, that space of energy, that space of intention and of power, you are irresistible to the universe. The abundance, the things that you most desire are irresistibly drawn towards you. Your very presence is magnetic because of the way that your energy has changed. So trust that, hold your intention strong. Do the work. She's not just sitting there, she's playing the music. She's playing the music that draws down for her that process of manifestation, that bringing into being. So you do have to do the work, but know that you have shifted to a place where it is possible. And not only is it possible, it is something that is really beautiful and almost effortless to bring through. Or even the challenge in it is such that the mastery looks and feels like ease. So if you have picked card number 2, that is for you this week. And for those who have picked card number 3, we have the Chariot. And the first words that are coming to me, forward movement. And this too is a card of mastery. This is a card of mastering your own destiny and moving forward with that. Not a time to hold back. You are the creator of your own reality. You are riding the wave of change. So, we have 2 choices here. One is to ride that wave, to stand tall on that chariot and to just be carried on that thrill, of adventure and excitement and the recklessness of that, and she's traveling over the water here. She has mastery over emotion. And what is emotion? Emotion is the raw material of change. It is the raw material of manifestation. It is the raw material that creates those patterns of existence, that creates the reality of our daily lives, So whereas we saw, the caution in the 4 of Cups in the first card, to be aware of the patterns and to be aware of our own perspective of the patterns, in this card we're seeing, that she's stepping into that place of mastery, that place of sovereignty, that personal sovereignty, not only for herself, but that the energy of this card is something that is transpersonal, definitely goes beyond the self, so that you can carry that forward movement, carry that energy and those patterns for others as well. And I'm just looking at the crabs and the turtles on the bottom of this card. and looking at the sun that the crab is holding. You know, these turtles and crabs, they are, my understanding, symbols of magic, women's mysteries, fertility. And they are in the depths, you know, they're there in the depths holding this sun that is, you know, as above, so below. They too are bringing change. They too are bringing change. And she's their queen and their guide. So you are being invited, you know, in this week, if you have this third card, to really step into that place of mastery and power. Perhaps you have something to share with others, you know, your gifts, whether this is in a formal way, maybe it's your work, maybe it could just be informally in the way that you interact with the people in the world around you. But whatever it is, you know, change is coming and you are riding that wave of change. You have that capacity within you for movement and magic and mastery. So seize it and go. That's the guidance there. And the final card is for all of us. And we have the Eight of Swords here. And this is a difficult one. You know, we have the swan there captured and held in that tangle of thorns. We have the swords themselves, you know, holding the swan in that prison. We have the bones of those who have come before, who have been captured and who could not get free and who have died in that place. We have the cloak of this darkness, this dark queen, this dark image, she who carries the thorns, and we have the light of the hummingbird in that darkness, and the swan looking with hope. These are times of challenge and times of change. We all have a choice when we come into these places of darkness. We have a choice when we come up against the challenges of the world around us. We have a choice when we see the shadow, when we see the darkness, when we see the pain, the suffering, the wounding, the misery, the death, and the imprisonment of our brothers and our sisters, those around us. Hold your hearts strong. The hummingbird is not afraid of the one who wears that dark cloak. The hummingbird knows that it's not she that's the problem. The real problem is the patterns and the weaving of humanity itself. The choices that we make in those dark times. The choices that collectively come and bring harm to ourselves and others. And so this is an invitation to be free. This is an invitation to see the shadow for what it is. A reflection of ourselves. A reflection of the wounding of our own hearts. The reverberation of the pain of that wounding out into the world. And we're invited to bring change. We are invited to be that light in the darkness, to be that fierce and courageous heart, and know that no matter how small we are, no matter how small we feel, because in this picture, you know, the hummingbird, she's the smallest, but she's also the one that can navigate that change. She's the one that can navigate that darkness. She's the one that on some level brings freedom. So allowing yourself, even in those dark spaces, to open to that freedom, that light, that joy, knowing that even in the darkest places of deepest despair, that there are ways to navigate those currents of change, that there are ways in which we can bring freedom and a loosening of the holds of those patterns and those threads in the world around us. But it does take courage. It is a risk. But each and every one of you who is watching this, you have that capacity to bring change. You have that well of courage within you, and you are being invited in this time to find it, to face that, the challenge of that shadow within yourself and within your own lives, and to allow your heart to awaken to the beauty and the power of the hummingbird, so that you too can be one who is able to not look away, when we see that pain, when we see that fear, to know we can be present with it. And whether or not we can change the situation for the people or the beings who are in suffering, knowing that the mere presence of that light, knowing that the mere presence of you who step into that place of darkness and are not afraid to be present there with it, that in itself initiates change. That in itself brings that spark of love into the situation. And it very well may be that thing, just that presence and just that love, that makes all the difference to the suffering, even if you can't change the circumstances or the outcome. And that is for all of us this week. So yes, moving forward into the new year on these wings of seriousness and change. Sending so many blessings to you all, and I'll see you again soon. Have a great week.